Now we would like to celebrate one of our own special programs, the Out in Two program, which marks its 20th anniversary this year. Over the past 20 years, the Out in Two program has achieved remarkable success, highlighted by an 84% graduation rate over 2 years when compared to the norm for community colleges across the country of 22% over 3 years. While other learning communities at BMCC experience higher graduation rates as well, such as the ASAP program at 53%, Out in Two surpasses all such learning community programs. Since its founding in 1999, more than 500 students have graduated as Out in Two scholars, and the transfer rate to four-year colleges upon graduation is 90%. Some of the colleges to which our Out in Two scholars transfer include City College, Hunter, John Jay and Baruch, Columbia, NYU, and SUNY Stony Brook. Our Out in Two alumni now include a doctor, college professors, a school principal, and as we heard earlier, a speech pathologist. This is a major point of pride for BMCC, and we are grateful to the program's visionary founder, my predecessor, who stepped down from the presidency of BMCC last August after 23 years of exceptional leadership, for creating this program. One of the reasons we are here tonight is to celebrate Out in Two and to recognize Tony Perez for his visionary leadership. May I have a round of applause in recognition of Tony. We would also like to recognize a special individual and friend who helped Tony grow the Out in Two program in recent years through his generous philanthropy. That person is Stephen Marengoff, and he is here tonight sitting with Tony. May we also have a round of applause for Steve. To introduce Tony Perez in the special tribute video we have created about him and the Out in Two program, I would like to ask Tim Tynan, who has been a BMCC Foundation board member for more than 21 years and who is a special friend of Tony's, to come to the stage. Tim, thank you so much.
Okay, can we hear us in the back of the room? Okay, New York fans of BMCC, we've got the best coming up right now, so congratulations, Stephen and Tim and Ashley. And I know I met Herb in 1997. I was a young guy joining the board, and he was the man with wisdom and kindness, and so congratulations to the Rosenfeld Foundation. Anyway, how about another round for all those honorees? Okay, so now the most beloved man in the room is somebody that I have the privilege to help introduce. We'll have a video in a second, as you just heard, that'll talk about the Out in Two program, which is something very, very important to not only BMCC, but also the students whose lives has changed by being part of it. Now, the honoree that I'm going to introduce, or help to introduce, is a man who's given 23 years of his life to BMCC. He is an inspiration. He is somebody that has impacted tens of thousands of students. You heard those two students today speak. I mean, are they amazing or what? That's typical of BMCC. Absolutely. So the honoree that will come up soon is somebody who's given people like those two purpose in life, and it's made a huge difference. He's somebody who was born in Puerto Rico. He moved to New York. He went to college here. He got his doctorate. He met his beautiful wife, Eileen, who they've been married 50 years, by the way. 50 years. That's worth celebrating. Two sons, Thomas and Tony. One of them is here tonight. But there's a whole series of things that you don't know that you want to know about this man. You probably, back in the back of the room, did you know that BMCC is the largest university campus in New York City? That's right. Did you know that 57% of the student body are women? I bet you didn't know that BMCC is open 7 days a week. 7 days a week till 11 p.m. every day. Now, why is that? That's because the students, they need to work. They need accommodations and flexibility. And why are we here tonight? Let me ask that question. Why are we here? We're here to pay it forward. We're here to help out people who need that help, and that's what this gentleman who's going to come up to the stage is all about and has done his whole life. You're going to hear about the Out in 2 program. Do you know that the Out in 2 program is something that was sort of a dare, I would say, a criticism from former Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who thought, well, why aren't community colleges graduating more students? And this gentleman who started this Out in 2 program came out and said, we can do better. We can do better, and by putting that program in place, 90% of those students get Out in 2. Now, again, this beloved former president, who will be on the stage shortly, is somebody, when he came here, the student body was around 15,000 students. Okay, it's closer to 30,000 today. When he came here, there was about 20 academic, coursework where you could get degrees. Now it's 50. BMCC is number 4. Did you know it's number 4 in the nation for providing students with minorities degrees? Number 4, not New York State, not New York City, but in the nation. Do you know that BMCC has an award-winning child care center on campus so that mothers who need to go to class have a place for their children? I bet you didn't know that during 9/11, BMCC was also a staging campus, a place where first responders could come to. Over 2,000 first responders were here, and again, this gentleman who's going to come up on the stage shortly is the person who led that and played a big role in bringing New York back. In fact, I bet you didn't know this, that BMCC opened up on October 1st after that dreadful week and dreadful time in New York City. One of the first places back in business. I bet you didn't know he also coined that phrase, start here and go anywhere. Start here and go anywhere. Think about that. Huge. I bet you also didn't know, if you've ever ridden the New York City subway, that they started in the early days of advertising. You would see that up in the cars, and this gentleman was one of the first to say, hey, we should advertise in there so that people know they can come here and they can really improve their lives. Start here, go anywhere. He coined that phrase. I bet you didn't know that. Well, this is somebody who you do want to know. We're going to show a quick video about the changes he's made in some people's lives, and then we'll bring him up on the stage.
I got the phone call from the Out in 2 program, and they called me about the scholarship, and I thought it was a prank at first. And then when I found out, it was one of the greatest things I've ever had happen to me.
One of the first thing I did was to seek work on campus, and I remember getting 2 or 3 jobs. I worked in the Writing Center as a tutor. I was working in the Office of Students with Disabilities. And I remember working in the registrar, like as soon as I came in. So I was doing multiple jobs. But as soon as I got the Out in 2, kind of alleviated some of that pressure so that I can focus on academics.
You just can't sustain a life in New York working 20 hours without the additional help. And when I started as an international student, it was with a hope and a prayer that somehow, things will fall into place, and that was Out in 2 for me.
Being Out in 2 made me push myself. I had so many self-doubts as a person and as a student. I questioned whether I was smart enough or whether I wasn't. And I had classmates and peers who taught me that, you just give it time, that you don't have to be like everybody else, you have to do everything at your own pace, and to know that I had support not just from family and friends but from fellow students, it really boosted my self-esteem.
There were so many things happening at BMCC, and as soon as I walked in, I had several people approaching me about joining clubs, and during that time I decided that I wanted to run for the student government presidency, and I won.
It definitely helped push me complete my education in 2 years, because some of my other friends who weren't as lucky spend 8 years over here at the school. Something, it's impacted their life.
If I did not get the Out in 2 scholarship, I think my time at BMCC would be totally different. For one, I would be working 2 and 3 jobs to try to make sure that I can pay my tuition. So I would not be involved in all the different activities. I would not be a Phi Theta Kappa. I would not be involved in student government. I would not be involved in clubs. I doubt it very much I would be involved in school life. But being a part of the Out in 2 program, I was able to put all that aside and really immerse myself into the school community and really participate actively as a part of BMCC.
Without Out in 2, I wouldn't know where I would be today if it weren't for the program, and I am grateful that I was selected for a great opportunity. And so I took whatever I learned here from every faculty member I met and just pushed myself to do it. If I can do it at BMCC, I can do it at any other school.
I have done so much since I left BMCC. I've gone on to earn, numerous degrees, and I don't think if I had not gotten that Out in 2 scholarship to kind of discipline me, to say you have a timeline, you need to finish within this period of time, and the supports that they gave us.
Getting into Out in 2 gave me the opportunity to meet people in the school, and then I was selected to give a speech at the Gala in 2010, where I met my current employer, who offered me a job. Out in 2 scholarship was like massive for me to be able to be where I am today. Even be in this country actually at this point.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perez, for this amazing program. I sure hope that one day another student will have their life changed because of you.
Thank you, BMCC community, for supporting me throughout these years and for supporting me while I was at BMCC.
Thank you.
So our honoree is too humble to say it himself, but I'll say it. He didn't want a lot of fanfare. He didn't want a video about himself, but he wanted it to be about the students. That's the kind of human being we're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest leader, educator, innovator, business partner, husband, father, friend that BMCC has ever known, Dr. Antonio Perez.
Tony, it is my great honor and privilege to present you with the BMCC Award of Excellence, with special recognition for your visionary leadership in creating and nurturing the Out in 2 program, and with sincere gratitude for your many achievements during your exceptional 23-year tenure as president of BMCC. Thank you. Oh, I'll hold it.
Well, Tim, I wish some of my family were here to hear this. But I'm Tony and my son and my wife Aline are here, and I just want to extend my gratitude for everything that all of you have done for me, because being a president of an institution, people think it's a lot of work, but the returns that one gets are amazing. And when I think back at what was the true inspiration of why we started this program, I look back as a kid from Puerto Rico, but again, with parents. My father had gone to the 6th grade. My mother had gone to the 3rd grade. And I remember my senior year in high school, seeking inspiration from my college counselor, and I told him I wanted to go to college, and he was grading my English Regents exam. And I was waiting outside his office, and I could see, and I knocked on the door, and I said, "Joe," I said, "how am I doing?" And he said, "Tony, I'll make a deal with you. I'll give you a 65 if you promise you're not going to go to college." He says, "You're not college material." But that was an inspiration, and that's what we try to do with the program. An inspiration to try to set goals for yourself and prove people wrong. Because after that, I did finally get accepted to a college in Iowa. Now you have to figure this. This is a kid living in Harlem and getting on a bus, and 30 hours later, reaching Oskaloosa, Iowa, 17 years old. For the first time in my life, I heard crickets, and I didn't know what that was. People would say to me, "You bet," and Jiminy Christmas, and I didn't know what they were talking about. But I spent a year and a half there, And I sought to transfer to colleges back in New York State because I wanted to be back close to home and I wanted to be a school teacher. But how did I choose a college? Well, in those days, they had a guide called, I believe it was Lovejoy, it's one of those, to help you determine which college to go to. And I looked at one section of that particular book, and it said, ratio of women to men. So I chose SUNY at Oneonta. It was 7-1. And that's where I met Eileen. And that's 50 years. So we talk about planning, but that helped me set goals because I proved people wrong. People who didn't have faith in me, as people don't have faith in our students. I set a goal that I wanted to get my doctorate before I was 30, and I was 27. I wanted to be a college dean before I was 30. I was 29, and I wanted to become a college president before I was 40, and I was 39 when I became a college president for the first time. So you have to believe in yourself. And that's why this program is so important to our students. Because when Rudy Giuliani was criticizing the community colleges for our graduation rate, I had to respond back, and I responded back in an article in the New York Times, to which he then responded back, and I said, this is not a fight I want to get into. But I did start a program which I felt would respond to why our students were not graduating. And I knew that financial issues were the ones that were setting them back. And this is when we started the Out in Two program. And this is when individuals began to give money like Herb and Bert Resnick and Ray O'Keefe. People believed in the initiation of this particular program, but we wanted to expand it. So I was introduced to Steve Marengoff. Come here, Steve. I got to tell you a little about Steve. So Steve knows that there's no such thing as a free lunch. When I ask Steve to go out to lunch, he knows I have my hands in his pocket. So I said, Steve, we have this program. We need your help. We want to expand it. And Steve sat there for a while. He says, you know, I really like this idea, Tony. He said, I'm willing to make a commitment. This is over a lunch, which was not quite an hour. He said, I'll give you $125,000 each year for 3 years. I said, wow, Steve, that's great. He said, but, I said, oh boy. He said, you need to find someone to match it. So I thought I had it made with Steve with his hands in his pocket. Now I had to find somebody else. And that's when I went out with Jay Lieberman. And I said, Jay, I've got this letter from Steve Marengoff asking that I need a match in order for him to give me $375,000. Would you give me $375,000? And because of that commitment and that letter, Jay Lieberman gave me another $375,000, and we matched it. But it was really through his commitment, initial commitment, and belief in our institution, and belief in our students. Because of that, I'd have my regular lunch with Bert Resnick. And some of you know Bert Resnick. I'd say, Bert, you know, I've got Jay Lieberman, I've got Steve Marengoff. And he would say, okay, Tony, I'll make a commitment of $50,000 a year. I mean, you talk about playing it forward, but I needed someone who believed in the program. And this program would not be what it is today had it not been those initial investments from Bert Resnick and Jules Lang. And Jules is great. Jules Lang, if you know Jules Lang, great philanthropist. We'd go out for lunch to the Harvard Club, and he'd always ask me, how am I going to use this money? I mean, I'd have to come up with ideas, but that's part of getting the commitment and getting people to support our institution, support our students, because this is an important program. But I just want to say that if it hadn't been for Steve Marengoff, we never would have had it snowball to the size it is today. And I'd like Steve to come up and say something.
Really, is there a more inspirational person than former President Antonio Perez? And he gets into your heart, and he did that for me. And I want to just thank you for giving me the opportunity to make such a meaningful contribution. This Out in Two program changes people's lives. It's a $5,000 tuition. It's been that forever. How they do it, I don't know. But to give someone an opportunity to be able to focus on academics and really where they want to go with their life rather than support their family, take care of their mother, their son, their brother, or make a living just to pay for the tuition is an extraordinary contribution. It doesn't take much. If you've given, thank you. If you've got more to give, please do so. It's an incredible program. Tony, thank you.
And Steve, we want to thank you. It's my great honor to present you with the BMCC Award of Excellence as well, with special gratitude for your friendship and generosity and helping to significantly grow the Out in 2 program at BMCC. Thank you so much.
Very unexpected.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.